Hey guys, what's up? It is such a fall day today. Actually, it's been like really fall, but the leaves are like raining down in front of me. It's super dark outside. With this. I'm not dealing with the time change very well. The first day I didn't even notice it, and then yesterday, oh my, ugh, I took a nap at like 4 o'clock. Woke up to pitch black darkness and I was like, "I've been out all day." "No, girl, it's actually 6 o'clock and it's just dark," and I can't. Especially because now I go to work at like 5 or 6. I feel like I should be curling up to go to bed, and instead I'm going to work. But it's fine. But I keep seeing those TikToks. It's like a trend right now. It's like, waking up early, asleep by 10 p.m., homework stressed out 6 months ago, and then it's them in, like, July floating in a river or something. I'm really, like I am probably have one of the worst cases of seasonal depression ever, like actually, no, that's a lie. I just am in denial for a long time, and then once it gets to February, March, April, ooh, well, once I see the first sunlight in April, I'm really happy, but until then, it's like I'm a wreck. Especially my morning routines in the summer is like I wake up, I make my coffee, I go sit out on the porch and I just like close my eyes and look into the sun. And as soon as the sun goes away, I'm like not outside at all. And I don't even realize that I'm not going outside. But especially like these past couple of days, I had the day off yesterday. And usually, like in the summer, I'm outside all the time. Like I'm going swimming, I'm rallying up my siblings to go to a lake or something. And now I'm like, there's absolutely nothing. I really need to buy myself a book because the problem is my boyfriend has so many things going on in his life and I hate him. I love him so much, but like yesterday, for example, he was going to the gym, he was hanging out with a friend, he had some work to do, and he was gone for multiple hours. And I'm just like sitting at home twiddling my thumbs because on a day that I don't work, I genuinely don't know what to do with my life anymore. And I have hobbies, but like I'm just not, I don't know. I engage in my hobbies so much more when I'm single, which is a really big problem. But like when I'm single, I'm painting all the time. I'm reading all the time, I'm journaling, I am watching TikTok and watching Netflix without, like, feeling bad about it. When I Yesterday, I was like, "Okay, I could find a book to read, or I could play the piano right now," but instead, I just put on a show and just, like, napped until I got home, and that's a really big issue because what the heck? But lately, one of my big hobbies has been cooking. When I was gone, I was sharing my apartment with 3 other girls, which isn't even bad. Like, there were some dorm situations where it was 8 girls in one place. That's crazy. I can never do that because every time if I don't know somebody, I have, like, the worst anxiety where I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna go out of my room and I'm gonna be perceived, and I'm gonna walk around the kitchen and people are gonna like see me, and what if I'm cooking weird, and what if they judge me for how I'm cooking, which is bizarre. Like nobody's doing that. You're fine, calm down. But I just hate that. I hate like sharing spaces, I guess, with people that I'm not insanely comfortable with. It wasn't even a conscious thing that like subconsciously I just started cooking 1,000 times more when I got home. And I just realized like yesterday, I was like, oh, it's because you don't have to share a kitchen with anybody. You're not worried about somebody coming in that you don't know who's going to judge you about your cooking. Like whenever my family members come in the kitchen, I'm like, oh, hey, look at what I'm cooking. But yeah, that's been my activity lately ever since I got home, but also especially now that it's fall. And I don't even like I think it's really bizarre because I was also looking at my eating habits while I was abroad and now that I'm home. Oh my gosh. I gained, not even kidding, 35 pounds when I went abroad because my mindset was just like, I need to try every single food. Every time that we went out to eat, there were like really crazy desserts. And especially in Greece, they love to give out free desserts at specific restaurants. And so I was always getting free dessert. I was always drinking a ton of wine. Now here, I'm like, one meal of the day is at work and I have to scarf it down in like a minute before I go check on my tables and it's fine, whatever. But I love slow cooking and then like enjoying my meal. So yesterday I've been really making I've been really into making soups. And yesterday I made tiramisu. I love making foods that I would get abroad because that makes me really happy. It's not like you can go to a restaurant and buy them, especially in this town. Like there's no Greek restaurants in my town. Um, so I've been making pastas and desserts and whatever. I made tzatziki. Oh, whatever. But that's not what I'm talking about today. Today I'm talking about breakups because I honestly feel like it's the season. I'm still a little sick, by the way. But I feel like it's breakup season, honestly. So, okay, somebody really close to me that I know just broke up with her boyfriend like 3 days ago. And I realized it was the 2-year anniversary of my breakup, which if you keep track of that or if it's weird for me to keep track of that, then and if you do, maybe we're like psychopaths. It's honestly impossible for me to not acknowledge that it's been 2 years, especially with Snapchat memories and stuff, because okay, this is the weird thing, I feel like my body remembers it more than I do. Because last year around this time, I felt really, really sick, and there was this one specific day where I was like, "I feel like crap, I woke up feeling miserable, what's wrong? Like, there's no reason for me to be feeling this way today." And then I looked at my memories and I was like, "Oh, it's been a year since me and my ex broke up." And this year, I got physically ill, like, this entire week, and then it was a day after the actual anniversary of it, so I was really proud that, like, the day on of, I wasn't like, "Oh my gosh, it's been a year," or "It's been 2 years," because I think after I realized it last year, I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's been a year, like, that's crazy." And this year, I realized it, and then I just kind of pushed it aside and moved on from the fact, but I think your body, it carries memories that you don't even realize, and it's so interesting because it's the year anniversaries of so many things and my body will react to it, and it made me think of, like, I kind of like to reevaluate how I've been and everything that I've gone through since the event, and, like, I like to see how much I've grown and how much has changed, and I also kinda like to go over the event in my head because, I deserve it sometimes, like, it's been 2 years, which is crazy because it doesn't feel like that long. My sister was like, "It feels like it's been longer." But in my mind, I'm like, "It feels like it wasn't that long ago," but since it's happened, like, so much has happened. But I remember that day, it was like a whole week-long event because me and my boyfriend were living together at the time, and we were living with my best friend and her boyfriend. And I had already broken up with my boyfriend a year before that because I found out that he was sending a bunch of girls nudes. And I was like, okay, that's awesome. Bye. And then we got back together. This is my first boyfriend, by the way. And my first ever boyfriend, my first ever love. So it was really hard for me to let go at this point. Like, if I found out that my boyfriend was cheating on me now, I would never ever take him back. But he was my first love. And I was naive at the time. And so I took him back. That was a really, really big mistake because when we broke up the first time, I was a senior in high school. We got back together. I changed my plans of what college I was going to. Keep in mind, my plan was to go to Hawaii. I, guys, oh my gosh. I hate this town so much. This town that I'm in right now, I hate it with my entire heart, being soul. And I've always hated it my entire life because there's nothing to do here. I'm trying to be like, ugh. It's so frustrating, and I try not to get mad about it anymore, but it's fine. But keep in mind when I'm telling this story, my entire life, my goal has been to get out of this town. And at the time, the way that I was going to do that was through college. Easy, simple. I was going to go to college in New York or Oregon or California or literally anywhere. Like, I had so many states that I wanted to go to. And then I decided on Hawaii. Okay, I decided on that when we were broken up. And I was so excited. My best friend was going to go with me and her boyfriend too. Then Me and my ex got together. It pisses me off so much, but whatever. Whatever. We ended up getting back together, and then things didn't end up working out, and so then we decided to go to school 2 hours away, still in this goddamn state that I hate, at a school that I'd never wanted to go to my entire life. I remember getting my acceptance letter because we do that thing where you apply to, like, every single school in the state because it's like you'll get great scholarships, whatever. Like, we do that as seniors in the high school, and I remember applying to it, like, worst case scenario, something like if my mom was dying in the hospital, that's when I would go to the school, and that was, like, the one like, the only way that it was gonna happen, and I have a picture of me holding up my acceptance, and I'm like, "Eh," because I hate that school. Anyways, we ended up going there and living in an apartment. I wanted to live in the dorms, but we ended up living in an apartment because neither of our boyfriends went to school, whatever. Had a terrible freshman experience. I wasn't allowed to go to frat parties because he was insecure. Didn't make any friends. Had a terrible experience. Ended up working all through my senior year, I mean, my freshman year at college, and then found out literally the week before Halloween that he was still sending girls nudes all the time. And the first time that I found out, it was one girl. One girl, one nude. That's all that I found. And then the second time, a week before Halloween, he's actually just a porn addict. So he has like 1,000 different apps where every single day he's spending money that he doesn't have. Keep in mind, I was also like, especially through our junior, senior year, this was the worst relationship I've ever been in. And this is why I have insanely high standards for men because I was treated like shit. My life got ruined just for you to cheat on me. What the hell? But he didn't have a job. So I was paying for everything. When we moved into this apartment, I paid for everything because I worked all through senior year and saved all my money so that we can move in. Now he's spending, like, the $5 that he gets from his parents for gas. Keep in mind, I was driving 30 minutes every day when we were hanging out because he lived in a different town, and I was driving this big Durango, which gas to fill that up was, like, $125 at the time, maybe 75. That was a little dramatic. Maybe $75, but still, I'm getting, like, $500 to $800 paychecks every 2 weeks because I'm working, like, a low wage job. I'm a senior in high school, whatever. So I'm paying for all this gas, and then he gets a little bit of money and decides to spend it on buying nudes from other girls. He was also a sex addict, so it's like we're going at this every single day, and then if we don't have sex like 2 times a day, he has to buy nudes from other girls, and he sex them and whatever. And what was really weird, so when I found out that he was sleeping with a girl that he said he never talked to while we were broken up. Because when we got back together, it was a really hard decision for me. I was like, I don't want to get hurt again. I'm so scared. Please don't mess this up for me. And so he told me everything that he'd done when we were broken up. Forgot to mention that he was actually hanging out with this girl that I hate, despise, because that was his girl best friend in the beginning of our relationship. We were together for 2.5 years. I wasn't expecting to explain all of this. So I'm a little sorry. I'm going to wrap it up real quick. But Um, I found out that he was sleeping with her while we were broken up, and I was like, "Okay, that's enough for me to wanna break up right now," because he was already treating me terribly. Keep in mind, like, this is my freshman year of college. I've been I was the type of girl that, like, all throughout school, I worked so hard to get really good grades. I wanted to go to a good school, and I wanted to go the main reason, like, my major is film. Film, guys, film. Theater arts. And the main reason that I wanted to go to college is for the experience. Like, I wanna go to frat parties. I wanna go to really awesome football games. I wanna be in a big city so I can, like, travel around because I'm stuck in this town where there's no parties, and I love partying. Like, all the experiences that I love that I'm just, like, neglected from because of this town that I live in, okay? And so my main goal when going to college was, like, I just wanna have the best college experience I possibly can. And in these first 3 months, I was basically isolated from my college. Every time that me and my friend would go on walks on the campus, and we'd be like, why do we feel like outsiders? Why do we feel like everyone's watching us like we're some sort of freak, even though this is our school? Like, we go to school here. But we were outsiders. Like, we weren't going to parties, we weren't doing anything. We met this one girl named Kayla, hi. But this other girl named Kayla who we knew slightly from high school, and she was in a sorority, and so she'd invite us to go out all the time. and every time that I wanted to go, it was a fight. And it sucked. Anyways, and then like there was just a ton of other things, mistreatment, emotional abuse, psychological abuse. It was miserable. And so as soon as I found one thing that was slightly like I this is a reasonable thing for me to break up with you, because sometimes your relationship will be shit and you still don't want to break up because there's like no actual reason for you to. It's just like, but there are reasons, but you don't see them like that. And until they cheat on you or until they actually do something really bad, then you stay around. And so this was my one reason where I was like, okay, this is enough, but also I feel like there's more. And so that night that I found out, it was the week before Halloween, okay? And we found out we had one Halloween party and then there was another Halloween party like the next weekend. But I remember that night I was searching his phone. I was up all night looking through his phone, looking through every single app, his Venmo transactions, his email, everything, and reading those messages and like him laying next to me. I remember I just couldn't fall asleep. And then every few seconds, I'd like turn around and I'd check it again. And it was so bizarre because what I was reading and what I was seeing was things that he'd never say to me, he'd never do to me. And it was like a whole other person that I was seeing on this phone. And it was just really scary and it was really heartbreaking. But the problem was we had rent to pay at the end of the week. And by this point, I had quit my job and I hadn't had a job for like a month probably. And he was actually working for once and he was paying some of my rent. Okay. And so I told my best friend who I was also living with, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna break up with him. I'm gonna do it. And the thing was, we were like, we're gonna wait until the end of the week to actually break up with him so that we know that he'll pay rent, because we paid rent for the month previous. Okay. It's not like I'm making him pay rent for the future month, but just so that, like, if I did break up with him and he left, he wouldn't just leave us stranded and have no money and no way to pay this last month's rent when he was living here. And I knew that he loved me. Yes, our relationship was insanely toxic. Yes, he was treating me terribly. Yes, he was treating me like he didn't love me. But I knew that he would pay rent, but still, it was like, we just have to put up with it for a couple more days, like 4 more days until he pays, and then I'll break up with him, whatever. And my best friend and her boyfriend were insanely supportive because they loved me and they supported me through the last breakup with the same guy. Like, they were the people that I went to lunch with every single day at school, and like the people that I talked to about everything. And they hated this guy because they saw what he did to me. And so moving in with him was even like, we don't like you. Like, we tried to make it work, the four of us, and it just wasn't working because he was a freak. Whatever. So Halloween rolls around, I go to the frat parties and I dress like a slut because I don't care, because you're cheating on me. He's texting me, he's calling me, I don't care. And then I think actual Halloween night comes around and I'm not doing anything because it's like a Wednesday night or something. And we watched that one movie, what is it called? Pearl or X, where she's like, it's the one where she's in the overalls. It might be the first one, I'm not sure. But after watching that movie, like, something was enraged in me and I was like, "You know what? Fuck you. I'm breaking up with you now." And so I did, and then the next day he moved out, and then it was a terrible. Honestly, November, after that whole thing went down, November was a great month for me because I was just high the entire time and I didn't feel any pain. But then the thoughts started to trickle in about what actually happened, and I went down a really terrible rabbit hole of depression and whatever, and it was a terrible, terrible thing. It took hold of me for a really, really, really long time, and it messed with my life for a long time. And the thing that messed with me the most was that I was still at that school that I never wanted to be at, in that place that I never wanted to be, watching everybody enjoy their freshman year of college while I was still stuck in this apartment, but now alone, and now I have to pay more rent, and I have to get 2 jobs, and it sucked. It sucked, and so I worked for a long time to get out, and I left that town. I hate that town, hate that college. Um, and then I came home and I studied abroad and now I'm home again. And it's awesome. And whatever. The reason why this breakup was so terrible is because not only did like the breakup itself suck, like I was treated terribly for a year and a half. I got cheated on. My innocence was stripped of me. Like before that relationship, I was just like my innocent, pure self, and it felt like this demon came in and ruined my life. And then it was the type of thing where it's like I was isolated from my friends, my families, my interests, everything that I cared about. I didn't have anymore. I was a shell of a human being and I had to build it from the ground up. But I was also in a place that I never wanted to be and a place that I never thought I would be in. And everything that I'd worked for my entire life, I'd given up for this guy who didn't give a shit about me and who just threw it back in my face and said, "Fuck you. I'm going to ruin your life anyway." And whatever. He went to go live in the attic of his parents' house. He's 2 years older than me. So fuck you. He's a cheer coach too. Whatever. So it's been 2 years since then. And I've done a lot of really cool things and I've rebuilt myself. And sometimes I still feel like I let that breakup define me for a really, really long time. I let that relationship define me for a really long time. And so I was in the shower the other day and I was like, wow, it's really been 2 years. And I was thinking about everything that I've done and all my friends that I have and like the things that I care about. And now I'm in a new, amazing relationship. I love my boyfriend so much. And I never thought that I'd be able to find love again. I never thought that I'd ever want a boyfriend again. And I was so happy when I was single after like a year or something. And I thought that I'd just be single forever because I really enjoyed being with myself and I liked myself and it was an awesome time and whatever. But I never thought that I'd get to this point. And I forget that like sometimes I still think of myself as just that girl 2 years ago when I'm so far from it. And sometimes I just group myself in with like those experiences. Like I literally let it define me and like in my subconscious, I guess. But the truth is that I like couldn't be farther from that person. And it's my sister and her boyfriend broke up a few days ago. It's her first big relationship too. They've been dating for like 2 years. When it's your first breakup, that pain that you feel is insane. It's one of the worst things that it's heartbreak, and everybody goes through it if you're lucky enough. But if you're lucky enough to go through a heartbreak like that, like you were lucky enough to love somebody that much. And that's why I say lucky enough. But when I think about my breakup, of course, I think about all these terrible things, like the fact that I was trapped at that school, the fact that I had nothing left to myself after because I'd given everything to him. But breakups are the thing that I'm trying to stress to her the most right now because obviously, like, all you want to do is cry and you feel sick that first week. And it's like, genuinely, like, I remember when I found out and when I was going to tell him that day, I kept like going away to throw up because I felt so sick. And it's a terrible pain. And every night, like, you go to bed, you're crying and you feel this hole in your chest and you don't know how it's going to get better because it sucks. And it sucks for a long time. Like, oh, really, it does suck for a long time. And I'm sorry for everybody who's going through a breakup right now because it can be months, it could be years. I think I wasn't genuinely okay for a really, really long time after. And that's normal. But I think the most important thing that you have to do after a breakup is to not get into another relationship right after. I feel like guys are really, really guilty of this. Oh, also, a detail I forgot to mention. My other best friend who wasn't living with us at the time, she also broke up with her boyfriend like a couple days before that. And he got into a relationship like literally 2 weeks after. And one of the things that my sister's really scared of right now is like he broke up with her because of their morals and values are different, and he feels like they're two different people. Keep in mind they're like sophomores in high school. They've been dating for 2 years. And she said it was really, really sudden. And she was like, she doesn't understand why he did it because there has to be somebody else in the picture because it was so sudden. And what I'm trying to tell her is like, even if there is another girl, you can't focus on that. You can't focus on what he's doing or how fast he seems to be moving on from the relationship or anything because that's just going to like destroy you. But I feel like, especially with guys, they tend to get into relationships so quickly after a breakup. And it's like, first of all, how are you finding a person like that quick? Because after I broke up with my ex, I could not find a single bachelor who I was like, yeah, you'd be worth my time. Not a single guy that I talked to for years. And I ended up dating a guy that I'd already known for like 5+ years because there was nobody else that I'd met, nobody new, nobody interesting in these past 2 years, besides the guy that I'm actually dating right now. There is one other guy that I'd met that I'd been like, "Oh, you're attractive, you're interesting, and I feel like you're not a complete waste of my time if I decided to be interested in you romantically, you know?" Most other guys are like a waste of my time. You don't have a personality, you're expecting me to chase you, you're ugly. Like, there are no eligible bachelors, none. So when a guy gets into another relationship a week after, I'm like, how could you possibly have found her? You must have been talking to her for months before and that's the crazy part. It's like, I broke up with you. How did you have a girl that you're already dating? Like, I won't date a person for months and months until I know them. And maybe that's crazy, but seriously, how do you find these girls? I guess there's way more eligible girls out there than there are guys, but still, whatever. And then it's also like you're a psychopath because getting into a relationship right after your relationship ends is bonk. It's genuinely bonk. You don't have the time to heal. You don't have the time to think about it. You don't have the time to fix yourself. And no matter what the relationship was, even though I feel like I was completely manipulated by this guy, I still know that there was things that I did wrong in the relationship, things that I need to fix and things that I need to realize about myself before I get into another relationship. I'm literally at the ground, feel like I've been kicked and pushed over, and I need time to like heal my bruises, stitch up my scars before I'm ready to even talk to another man. Like, that's the kind of low that I was at, and I wouldn't have anything to give to a new person or a new partner. I just wouldn't. And I don't think that these guys who are getting into new relationships have anything to give either. There's no way that you just got out of that long, long relationship. Unless actually, oh, it makes sense because it's not like they're getting their entire energy and soul ripped out of them in these relationships because women don't really do that to guys. But the reason why women feel like they can't get into a relationship because they just had everything ripped out of them by these vampires because men are vampires, not even kidding. And they have to like it's like you're grabbing things from the ground, shoving them in your mouth just to get some sort of nutrients to revive yourself in order to have any foundation for love, to like, to even kiss a man after a relationship, like, that's crazy. Anyways, don't get into a relationship after you just got out of one. Don't. That's crazy. I think for men, it's insane that they're doing that so often. Maybe they're doing it less often than I think, but still. Ugh. But that's like the number one most important thing that I remember is like, do not rush it. That's one of the worst things that you can do because you need to feel this pain. No matter how hard it is, no matter how much you don't want to feel it, you have to feel it in order to get over it. And you can use drugs to cope until, like, so that you don't have to think about it, so that you don't have to feel it. At some point, you're gonna have to feel it. At some point, you're gonna have to think about it. I remember I was smoking so much weed that first month. And I think cool thing that I can do with weed is like, I don't have to think about the things I don't want to think about. I don't have to. And so I would just, every time I started feeling a little sad or a little bit of pain, I would smoke and then I was fine. I was vibing. I was having fun. And then, you know, A couple months into it, I'm laying on the couch and I get a feeling of sadness that was always there. But I remember, I think it was Christmas break or Thanksgiving break, and I was back home, and it was like slowly the thoughts started to trickle in about what he did and how I actually felt. And it didn't matter if I was high anymore. I was going to feel the pain regardless. Like, you can't hold it off forever. And so that first month, I feel like it was my body protecting me from the pain that I was going to feel because it was such a shock. Like, I was in so much pain, I couldn't feel it. I couldn't feel it. I wasn't ready to. I would have like exploded, you know? And so it took a few months, but slowly I began to realize what actually happened. And not only did that breakup rewire how I thought about him and our relationship and myself, it rewired how I thought about the entire world, how I thought about men, how I thought about everything. It was kind of like my awakening, my ego death, if you will. Um, but it completely rewired how I thought about everything I'd ever known. I think that was insanely crucial to who I am as a person and my character. And it built the foundation that I needed to be able to get into another relationship. And that was the last thing that I wanted when I was done with my boyfriend because it was one of those things where it was like, you suck. I'm pretty sure every other man in this universe sucks, and there's no way that there could be a good relationship because every single man will cheat. Every single man is evil, and he will just destroy me. Okay, that's kind of what I built up in my head. Now, is that an insane wall, an insane guard to not get hurt? Absolutely. Is it a little bit based in truth? Absolutely. And if you want to believe that, that's fine. You're never going to live again, and it's going to suck. But at least you won't be like sucked of all your identity and who you are, you know? But anyways, I had this man come in and he was my new boyfriend, right? And even though I'd spent a lot of time healing, I kind of did need him to heal some of the other things that were broken in me from that relationship because I needed a man to prove to me that not all men are evil. Like, I can't do that on my own. I can't just like s- try and believe that when I have no proof. And so he was kind of my proof. And if he ends up cheating on me, then there we go. There's no proof. If he ends up ruining my life, then whatever, that's fine. But when you get out of a relationship, of course, I let's list the steps, okay? Number 1, that first phase, you just got to cry. You got to cry. Hopefully your friends are bringing you flowers and lattes. Curl up in your bed, let it out. Like, this is the eat ice cream and watch sad rom-coms and stuff, okay? You need that. Take that time, okay? You deserve it. You deserve to cry. At some point, though, a week later, 2 weeks later, you're gonna have to build yourself up again. Get pretty, curl your hair, realize that oh, I am gorgeous. I am a boss bitch. Why am I acting like this? If you go to school with him and you have to see him in the hallway, make sure that he sees you like the goddess that you are. Like, because that's who you are. And even if you have to fake it, okay? Fake it until you feel it. Just build yourself up again. Of course, you're still going to be crying that makeup off at the end of the day. That's fine. That's fine. But you're going to start to regain this energy of, oh, yes, I am a real girl and I'm a cool girl and I'm a fun girl. And it doesn't matter that this ugly boy broke my heart. I still have, like, I'm still amazing. Whatever. Step 3 is the actual healing process. Okay, this is when you finally picked up yourself a little bit. You've allowed yourself to feel the pain. Now you have to reflect on what really happened. What was this relationship? What went wrong? When did it go wrong? What did I do? What did he do? What did he make me feel? Journal a lot. This is when you journal. This is when you read. This is when you smoke and you think. You can think about the happy memories, but do not linger on the happy memories because that's not all there was, girl. That's not all there was. There was days where he made you feel shitty. There were days when it wasn't worth it. And those are the days that you have to reflect on the most and be like, what happened? And over time, enough of those days is enough to break up, right? I think the reflection period is the longest period and the most crucial period because without reflecting, you're never going to be able to better yourself. And that's what it really is. That's kind of step 4, I would say. But I feel like this is the step that most men don't do. They make mistakes in relationships. They treat their girl terribly and then they're at the end they're like, "The breakup came out of nowhere. The divorce just came out of nowhere." And then they jump into another relationship before they realize what they've did and they treat another girl like shit. That's not what we're doing. We're thinking about where we went wrong and where he went wrong and where we reacted wrong and how that was detrimental to our relationship and to our mental health. We're journaling about it and we're thinking about it over and over again. For example, one of my insanely toxic traits when I'm in a relationship is I hate controversy, which in this relationship you wouldn't even be able to tell because if there's something going on, I will state it immediately. And that's how I know I did my work, I did my reflection. But in my last relationship, if we were in an argument and he did something wrong, I couldn't tell him. I couldn't say it. Because one of the biggest problems was that I saw him as such a perfect person. I was like, he couldn't do anything wrong. It must be my fault. So why would I say it out loud? Because it has there's really no reliability to what I'm about to say. And so I just keep it in myself. And he would beg me to like speak, especially in arguments, because by the end, it's just like, okay, yeah, you did do everything wrong and now we're okay. But we're not okay because I didn't even say what I needed to say because I physically couldn't. And that's my fault because we're sitting on the bathroom floor. I'm just looking around in silence for hours waiting for it to be over. Girl, you have to say what's making you feel bad. Otherwise, he's not going to know how to fix it. So that's where, obviously that's a toxic trait. You should not be sitting in silence for that long. Just say what's on your mind. And so now I do say what's on my mind because if you don't say what's wrong, they're never going to be able to fix it. And if you do say what's wrong and they don't fix it, that's on them. Whatever. Now, yes, step 4, rebuilding yourself. This is when you start going to the gym, you start building new hobbies, making new friendships. It's the most exciting time because you've done the work. You have reflected, you've thought, and as painful as it was, you went back and you reviewed everything that went wrong and everything that maybe went right, and you know what you want in your future partner, and you know what you want for yourself in the future. And now you can start building that life because this is like the best part about being single that we need to do. Like, it's actually so exciting. You get to make new friends, you get to have new opportunities, and you don't have to rely on a man to do them. You start making your own income, you start building a life for yourself where no man can disrupt your peace, no man can ruin it for you. No one can ruin it for you because you completely decide how you want to live your life without anybody's input. And it might be scary, especially if you've been in a relationship for a really long time, especially if you've been married for a long time and you're so used to having a partner to make all these decisions with. But as even if you're like a parent, you get to decide how to parent your child. You get to, I mean, I know that every case is not like that, but in the cases that they are like that, and you really get this man out of your life for good, and if he is still in your life, I'm sorry, girl. But you're single now. And the best part about being single is like having complete autonomy and complete control over every decision you make, every path that you want to go down. No man gets to decide that for you. No man gets to ruin that for you. Think of every time that you got excited to go to dinner and you got all cute and you're going out to a place that you've been trying for a long time and the guy doesn't compliment you even though you haven't gotten ready in months. And then you go out and he's like, "Wait, where are we going again? Where are we going?" "Oh, just the place I've been talking about all week that I'm like really excited to go to, and now I'm in a bad mood because I got all ready and so excited and you obviously couldn't care less about this experience." You don't have to do that anymore. You get ready for yourself. You're gonna have girls coming up to you. "You look gorgeous, queen." If you sit alone at the restaurant table, like, that's fine because nobody is going to ruin it for you. I would rather go out by myself, do exactly what I wanna do. If that meant that I wouldn't have to have somebody coming with me just to ruin every single little thing about it. Think about every date that you've gone on where it's like you were so excited to ride rides at the fair and you just wanted to eat the entire time. And you already ate at home and he just wants to smoke. And now you get to go and ride your rides, even if that means you're by yourself. Because being by yourself is better than being mistreated all the time. That I know for 100%. And I know it seems so scary. Like, especially that first week, even sleeping in your bed. It's so weird because I never thought that I'd be saying this 2 years from the breakup. But I remember that first night after I'd said goodnight to my roommates. I went in my room and it was so empty. The bathroom was empty, my bed was empty, the room had no decorations, nothing of its own. It was completely blank. And I had to curl up in bed alone and I hadn't slept alone in who knows how long. And that was the hardest part about my day is that I would have to sleep alone. And eventually, slowly over time, my room was filled with decorations and love, and my room was a safe place. And eventually, I liked sleeping alone. And I didn't want any man in my room because it was perfect and he wouldn't fit in there. And I liked going out to dinner alone. And I traveled to a whole nother continent by myself for 5 months. And at the time, I was so attached to this person, and I thought life was not possible without this person. I thought there was no hope and that I was just going to be miserable forever because even going an hour without this man was impossible for me. And then I built a life where I valued my alone time more than anything else. And I was able to build myself from like having nothing. I had no more meaningful relationships. I had no family around me, no interests. And 2 years later, it's like I never want to be that reliant on a person again. As safe as it might feel, it's not safe. It's just dependence. You're not a child. You're a full-grown woman. And I know that we like to do that in relationships. We like to rely on our partner because they're supposed to take care of us. But the truth is, we we don't know for sure that that's always going to last. Not to induce fear in those people who are in loving, meaningful relationships. You're probably not watching this. But if you're just getting out of one, especially long term, you know how easily things can fall apart. 2 weeks ago, you thought you'd never be happier. You thought that you'd marry this person. You were planning your future together. And now look, you're alone. Nothing is for certain. And yes, that's scary, but it's also exciting because that means that you get to be your own person for the rest of your life. And that's like the big thing that I try to remember in my relationship now is like, you don't want to be reliant on this person forever. And I know that at the beginning of this episode, I was just talking about how I'm not as invested in my hobbies now that I'm in a relationship and he likes to do everything. And that's just like the way that it is as a woman. It's like I want to give you absolutely everything. You can't do that, girl. Look out for yourself. Anyway, I think that's it. To wrap it up, if you are getting out of a relationship, I know that it's scary, especially in the winter. It might feel like you only have dark days ahead. But once you cry, girl, like this is the hardest time. But you have to focus. It feels like there's nothing to do. The only thing that there is to do is to focus on yourself and to focus on how you're going to become the best version of yourself. And that's like the most exciting to be able to have all the time to do that. Like, that's one of the most amazing things that you could do. I'm wishing you luck. You'll get through this, and there is hope. And if you think that, like, there's no hope at all, I'm sorry because that's a really sad feeling. But I love you guys. There is hope. I'm gonna go. It's really folly. I'm gonna edit this, and I love ya. I love you. I love you. Bye. Ugh.